Hello, all, and welcome to the newest episode of the Noobs and Knockouts Podcast. I'm Austin. I'm a knockout. Watched a lot of wrestling.
I'm David. I'm a noob. I haven't watched a whole lot of wrestling. And I came up with a clever thing to say earlier today, and I totally forgot it. I just know that pain. Life is pain, and art is dead.
Yes, this isn't, I guess, the first time I've intentionally tried to have something crappy on this show. That was the whole point of the Undertaker versus Undertaker debacle. But I feel like this is a lower tier than that. Welcome, everybody, to Wrestlelicious. So, I've had this in my head ever since I determined our next modern day story arc. As a reminder to people who didn't watch, it's been a few weeks since I brought it up on air. But our next arc, our next episode will be the start of kind of reviewing the NXT Women's Revolution, kind of the modern, how in the most modern of contexts, WWE Women's Wrestling has become like really good and respected. And I was like, it'd be really funny if the episode before that, we watched something really bad women's wrestling. And so that brings us to here.
I wanna give some context here. I guess not context, but the signs are flashing on all sides for me. I have a younger cousin who's kind of like in my kind of immediate circle aside from Austin, the only other person I can talk to about wrestling. He's actually going to be on the show in a couple months. Spoiler alert.
So you do want to do an episode about that? Spoilers for a couple months later.
Yes. Yeah. Oh no, I thought we agreed on that. Anyway. But regardless, I told him about what I was being subjected to, and he asked me what it was, and I said Wrestlelicious, and he goes, oh my god, oh no. so all the non-noobs out there are aware, I suppose, that what I'm about to watch with my dear friend Austin here is going to be the worst in the world, and I'm just here with some level of blindness, knowing that it's going to suck, but not knowing how it's going to suck.
Yes, big props to in the wrestling community. It's kind of garnered a reputation, especially because Wrestling with Regret was one of the bigger YouTube channels on pro wrestling, and they did a video on, and Brian Zane did a video on this. So like, it's kind of there. Like, people kind of know about it, and it's kind of famous for just being god awful. And I think that I could probably, it's kind of like to kind of describe to David how bad this is how this is going to be bad. Is that I don't know how familiar you are with Glow.
I've not watched it. I know I need to watch it now that I am in fact a fan of pro wrestling TM, and you have talked nonstop about how much you enjoy that show.
I wasn't talking about Netflix's Glow. I was talking about the Glow, the actual Glow.
Oh wait, it's an IRL thing.
Yes, the Netflix show is based off of the real life 80s women's wrestling show Glow.
I feel very uncultured now. Okay.
I mean, you should definitely still watch the Netflix show. It's very good.
Yes, absolutely.
Sadly, got canceled in a bad part, in my opinion. Whatever.
Welcome to quality Netflix shows, dude. I will say, for as much as you worry about like the premise of this show wearing thin as I continue to watch more stuff, it's moments like these that really set to remind us I still have a long way to go. Right.
So, Glow. I feel like that's important to understand Wrestlelicious and how and what it's going to look like. Is that Glow was an 80s. It's kind of a cult classic among the wrestling community, as kind of being like a place where women's wrestling could be seen as respectable for the 80s, and like it's dated poorly in that it's filled with a bunch of cheesy 80s one-dimensional characters and it's very corny, and the women's wrestling isn't that great, as a lot of them were legitimately they were like actors and models that they got hired to the show and they trained to wrestle. But there is still a certain appeal to it. It's still like pretty decent show, and it's nice and fun, and So many bad women's wrestling feds since Glow have tried to be Glow. And you could look at women's wrestling unleashed, or some women of wrestling. Yes, women of wrestling. That's it. That's something. Wow, that follows a lot of that mold in the early 2000s, in the early to mid 2000s. And Wrestlelicious, this show aired in 2009.
Okay.
And it still has this it feels like it's trying to do 80s Glow.
I will say first thing off the bat, that's not at all what I was expecting. Just from the name and from you just now talking about Glow, I was thinking, oh, okay, so it'll be of the era.
No, it just feels like it should be, but it's not.
Trying to do Glow in 09. That's bizarre too, because that's like Diva's era too, isn't it?
Yes. This is 2009 is we're dead smack in the middle of the Divas era.
And so is this at all trying to not to maybe accidentally take any like future talking points prematurely? Is this trying to piggyback off any like Divas like quote unquote success at all too?
I don't think so. I don't know if I would say so. I will say, go ahead and preface this, is there's an appeal to sex on this show.
Of course there is.
And you could argue that comes from women's wrestling in WWE in 2009, or you could argue that's just how the wrestling industry looked at women in 2009. It's not really a WWE thing.
The interesting thing is, like, it seems to me up until like we were in Divas era, and obviously there were some exceptions to this, especially with like women in the companies that weren't necessarily wrestlers but were more like arm candy for the like dude wrestlers. There's it seems like, rather surprisingly, there's been this element to women's wrestling for almost, again, aside from like Divas era stuff, the entire history of wrestling that's kind of like sexless. It's not like this look at hot woman, be sexy. It's like just they're wrestlers, except they got boobs now.
I think that kind of perception from you comes from the fact that we've never touched WWE circa mid to late Attitude Era to the Ruthless Aggression era.
Okay. I will say the freaking the ball gown fight or whatever that was getting teased at the very tail end of our run with the Attitude Era does defeat that a little bit.
Yeah, the thing is, like, they're going to restart the women's division with Sable as the centerpiece to that, and there's going to be a lot, and going forward, there's going to be a lot more appeals to sex.
Okay, well that makes sense, because they're really weird about Sable.
Like it's such a the Ruthless. If you look at the late Attitude Era and post Attitude Era WWE is so confusing for women's wrestling, in that, like, on one hand, you have some of the best athletes that they've ever seen in the women's division at that point in time. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, they're still doing like annual Playboy battle royals for women. And that's like their biggest role at WrestleMania is like Playboy.
When did that like kind of go up? Like, when did they start doing the Playboy thing?
That would have been 2003.
Oh, okay.
I think is around when the first match for that happened. Once the WWE Divas started doing Playboy is when they started doing Playboy matches.
So then like late 90s, so just to make sure I'm wrapping my head around this correctly, late 90s through like mid 2010s is when WWE specifically, but maybe American wrestling on a whole, got really weird about women's wrestling.
I would say that is the time period when when like sex appeal was pushed the hardest on women's wrestling. Yes.
Unfortunate.
Yeah. So back to Resolicious. As much as this has been a fun exercise in talking about women's wrestling history.
Yes.
So Resolicious, how did it come about? Literally, a guy won the lottery. So it was created by Justin Vargas. He won a $35 million jackpot lottery in 2008. And this is what he spent that money on.
Wait, you weren't kidding in the last episode when you said it was a dude who won the lottery? It
No.
actual literally won the lottery and decided to make Bad Glow, but in 2009?
Yes.
What?
Yes, he's a character on the show even, JV Rich.
Did he have, was this just a rando? Did he have any connections to the industry up until this?
No, it's just some dude. Some dude won the lottery and was like, you know what I'm going to do with this money?
He had to have at least been like a fan, right?
Yeah, I hope. I would assume. There's no way he got into it because he thought this would be a money-making proposition.
That's so bizarre.
Anyway, he done hooked up with I believe Dave, not Dave Prazak. That's the creator of Shimmer Women's Wrestling, one of the good women's wrestling. He hooked up. I know he partnered with Johnny Caffarella, who I don't really know. He doesn't really have any connection to anything, and Jimmy fucking Hart. Jimmy Hart is a producer on this show. We can't escape him, David.
God, that's two things now. That's two monumental train wreck, interdimensional cataclysms that Jimmy Hart has pioneered that has now shown up on our damn podcast.
I know. I didn't even think about that until earlier today. It was like, oh my God, we're doing another thing with Jimmy Hart in
it. Well, God, Jimmy Hart, buddy, can you please chill?
Yeah, so I will say that the chances of the wrestling on this show has a chance of being not the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. And the reason for that is because while a lot of the women on this show were following that Glow model of they just hired actresses and taught them how to wrestle. At the same time, there are quite a few legitimate, good female wrestlers around here on this show. Probably the most significant that I know of for sure is Serena Deeb, who is currently having a bit of a career renaissance. I'm going to repeat that. It's lost connection there. Is one of the bigger name, probably real good people on this show would be Serena Deeb, who is currently having a career renaissance in AEW as the best women's wrestler in the company, and was the NWA Women's Champion until about until a couple of weeks ago.
Okay, so we got one. That's one.
There's a couple more, but I'm not as familiar with the mid 2000s women's wrestling scene as I'd like to be.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
but but the good wrestlers showed up on this show in that sense of if you're a women's indie wrestler in the 2000s, you only got so many options to this.
So these were all indie gets. None of them were AAA headliners. Well, again, headliners for Divas era.
No. Well, no. There was one who I think had appeared on national TV before.
Oh, nice.
Daphne, I believe is her name. I don't know a lot about her career, unfortunately. Again, just not an era that I know of. She was in TNA during this time period, and I don't really know as much about TNA as I'd like.
That's neat, though.
But yeah, there are a few decent wrestlers on this show, again, in the sense of there's only so many options that if you're a woman trying to be a pro wrestler on the indies, there's only so many jobs you have available to you.
Okay.
This kid paid well because he's a millionaire.
Yeah.
So, I'll take that job. I'll take that job.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, after we talked last time about the really sexy contracts offered to some of WCW's top stars, it's one of those things that kind of puts in stark contrast for me just how much of a business this is and just how much cold hard calculation goes into it from people who sign the contracts, just as it would any other job where you're weighing the pros and cons of each offer you're given.
Yeah.
So if you're getting offered a chunk of lotto money, why not?
Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the show aired. It had 13 episodes. They're a half hour long. We're gonna watch the first two. They aired in syndication. So amazing. That's how big we got here. And in fact, I will say that we're going to watch these from YouTube. If for some reason, for what you've heard in the last 15 minutes, makes you want to watch this, good luck. Because I have only found maybe half of these episodes in full on YouTube.
Jesus.
I don't know where Wrestling with Regret found them, to be honest. Like, I don't know where you find them. That's the kind of the question I have, is that it aired in syndication. It did like in the late 2000s, early 2010s. It performed like shit, and it, obviously never made any money, or, would have been re-released anywhere.
Wait, so this wasn't meant to be a one-off. This was meant to become like its own wrestling company?
Yes. They did season 1, 13 episodes, and then they said that a season 2 was coming, and it never came.
Woof.
So yeah, it's like, good luck finding it is kind of the end of the story.
Unfortunate.
It is unfortunate, because I want to see this. I wish that I had the option to watch this whole thing and buy it together.
It'd be nice, but also that just means more pain. So
it's true. So hopeful. I'm hopeful that at least there's some so bad it's good to this. That's what I've heard, is that, like, for some people, it's a so bad it's good. So I'm hoping for that. Fingers crossed.
Okay.
But yeah, that is about all I can say about this show. We're going to watch the first 2 episodes. They're on YouTube. They're still up, thankfully. See you guys in the back half. And we are back. We have just finished watching the first 2 episodes of Wrestlelicious, and I believe I have a thing. I have a thing I would like to start with.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Austin, a knockout. I've watched a lot of crap. David is a noob, but this makes him want to tap. We talk a lot of shit, but we're not malicious, because the Noobs and Knockouts just watched Resolicious.
My name is David, and I'm here to say I want to die. That, I expected on our podcast to go to many wild places. The impetus of our podcast was Austin info dumping about the world of wrestling to me, and being like this, and me being like, this place sounds pretty wild and wacky, and I'd love to get to know more about it, but make it content. Of all the wild wackiness, I never thought that included in that wild wackiness would be softcore porn.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So, I guess if that's how you want to start this.
What else would you expect me to start with, dude? Every scene, everything in that just felt like the setup to 2 women banging. Sometimes with a guy there, and usually that guy is the dude who bankrolled this, because of course it is.
Yeah, so I think that this show might be playing into, like, the cheesecake sexy a little bit.
A little bit. Well, okay, here's the thing. It's not that it's not that this show blatantly objectifies every single woman who works for this promotion. It does without question. All those women are dressed up very skimpily and have the personality of a potato, while showing as much boobage as is possible on TV PG. However, it's not just that. It's also the fact that every set has the budget of a ham sandwich. It's that the acting is as wooden as a goddamn lumber factory. It's the fact that the music is as stock as anything you'll find in a grocery store. I'm running out of good comparisons here, but that also makes me good enough to announce for Wrestlelicious. So what else is new? everything about this is just like literally the camera quality is terrible, the acting is terrible, the sets are either cheap or borrowed. It legitimately, I'm not being hyperbolic here. Half the time, it legitimately reads like a porno. I'm there's a scene the one that really exemplified it for me. Well, actually, there were a few, but there was one that really exemplified it for me, where two of the wrestlers were standing outside like some mansion, and one of them's like, "Yeah, I'll get you in good with this guy, our boss," and this guy, our boss, the rando that owns that won the goddamn lottery and bankrolled this whole horrible venture, opens up the door and he's like leering at them, and they're going inside to, I guess, audition this girl for him, and I'm like, if we
but then he says
inside,
no because she's a dog, because he said she belongs on leash.
yeah.
The
See,
sketch
here's the
comedy
thing.
on this is peak tier.
See, here's the thing. If we let that, if we let that scene run past that to any degree, it would then turn into, please, I would do anything. Cut to.
Thankfully, we cut out because I don't want
Yes.
to see that.
Yeah, me neither. Dear God, why?
So, yeah, I can't even like be mad. Like it a longtime viewer of this show might be like, yeah, why are you not as angry as you were with the Divas or in the Attitude Era with Sable?
Squad W.
And I'm gonna be honest, is that this is worse.
This is
But
way
the thing
worse.
is, it's also so bad that I can't even be mad at it.
I got way too many laughs out of this to feel anger right now. It was so terrible, and Austin and I just spent the entire like horrible, roughly hour riffing that we just like. I can't even like feel anger because I was just laughing too hard at how horrible and pathetic this is.
Yeah, like I could comment on the really bad, racial stereotypes.
Yes.
But they are so comical that it's like, what am I supposed to do with this?
This legitimately reads like a parody. Like aside from reading like a porno half the time, the other half it reads like a parody. Like I made this comment to Austin when we were watching, and I was kind of kidding at the time, but no, this feels like one of those like Adult Swim segments that's like purposefully awful, and the whole joke is that it's really bad and goes on for way too long. And it feels like a commentary. It's so like cartoonishly inept that it feels like it was done that way on purpose. Like you cannot, nobody who made this, it's impossible for anybody who worked on this to look at this and think they've made a legitimately good product. I can't comprehend somebody like crossing their arms, nodding, and be like, yeah, this is it. Like I can't. There's no way. This is so plainly bad that it could only like exist as a parody of bad women's wrestling.
Well,
right?
now I want to believe that this is some like 4D deep chess gameplay here, where this is all like actually Justin Vargas is actually a closeted genius.
Yeah,
who created the
we're
perfect
all
commentary and parody of women's wrestling and stereotypes.
And we are all playing into his performance art by like giving this like the currency of attention and like riffing on it and whatever. Like God, are we part of the joke? Are we being made fun of right now by doing this? Maybe we are. I don't know. My brain is too melted to form coherent thoughts, so this is the best I have.
Yeah, so I guess we should talk about the show.
What is there to talk about?
Well, I didn't get to make any of my jokes about the rap, quite frankly.
Okay, so yeah, the first episode begins with like a 5-minute long rap segment in which each wrestler for the promotion that they have at that point introduces themselves in 4-bar beat.
Yeah, it's and unfortunately I can't find the lyrics, so I can't make jokes because I was going to write about how all of them find a rhyme for the word Wrestlelicious.
It is impressive.
Like it's auspicious, malicious, which admittedly I copped that one. Wishes. You tried.
Sometimes you got to go for those slant rhymes, man.
That's the only ones I can immediately remember.
There are probably like vicious and suspicious in there too.
They say vicious. Yeah, they use vicious. Oh yeah, they do because the Jimmy's Angels are like, we'll make the cops suspicious. Yeah. Blah 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 on Wrestlelicious.
Yeah.
Which I'll go ahead and talk about that. Is they use the rap to introduce a bunch of the women's wrestlers. So we got Tony the Top. She's the goddaughter.
It's a mafia. Yeah.
Yeah. Glory. It's either Glory or Gloria. I don't remember. She's all American.
Yeah.
We got Maui, the island princess. We got Jimmy's Angels. They are the worst Charlie's Angels impression I've ever seen. The Southern Belle. I believe Cousin Cassie was there are three of them, and I'm pretty sure country gimmicks, and I'm pretty sure Cousin Cassie is the one who got to rap.
Yeah, Cousin Cassie was the one that rapped.
Supernova, who's a superhero.
The vampire chick.
The vampire. You got the voodoo witch. Boot Camp Bailey.
Oh yeah, Boot Camp Bailey.
Sergeant, who's a heel.
The host.
The host.
J.B.
Rich gets a lyric.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that's the one where like after again like 5 minutes in, it already feels like these are all characters taken from an adult film. Then like the guy, the JV showing up like with all the women on his arm, just making it feel like he's like their pimp, like doesn't help matters remotely.
I have literally done this as a joke in a show before.
Yeah.
I've literally done the women hanging off my arm joke.
Yup.
And I think I was more dignified.
Probably.
But the first scene of the first sketch comedy segment, we have so many of those on this show. There are more of those than there are matches.
I will say, I'll give him this. Their comedy is very sketch.
All right. The first scene is like him walking into his mansion, JV walking into his mansion, and Jimmy Hart is just there doing the dishes, and he's like, Jimmy, what are you doing? And Jimmy's like, well, somebody's got to wash the dishes, baby. And eventually it leads to like somebody mentioned about cleaning the pool, and Jimmy Hart quits, and he's like, I don't need this. I'm a Hall of Famer. And like, that's the joke.
Please laugh.
They have a laugh track, David. That's how you know where the funny.
Oh my god, I know. They have a laugh track, and it's like the most delirious laugh track I've ever heard. Like all the people laughing in the laugh track sounds like they've been given a hyena gas, which is a great segue to the audience.
Oh my god! You mean the plant ass audience?
The fucking audience. How much did JV win in this lotto?
35 mil.
30. Okay, because how the hell do you bankroll an entire wrestling show? Admittedly, the cheapest goddamn wrestling show.
Yeah, I don't think you spent that much money on it.
Yeah. Plus all the wrestlers, plus a whole ass paid audience, plus Jimmy Hart somehow.
Oh yeah, baby, Jimmy Hart will do anything for money, Daddy.
Oh, please no.
And yeah, so they're such blatantly plants, and like they're literally wearing the Resolicious shirt.
They're wearing Resolicious shirts. They're like responding they're like viciously booing heels that have no reason to be booed because they've not yet existed in indie wrestling up until this point.
Yeah, like they just like know that like this is a bad guy. You need to boo them. It's like,
yeah. Is there like a universe here? Is this like is there like an off-screen history of like, oh no, this company's been around for a long time? What?
Oh shit, I forgot. I just remembered two more of the women from the rap. You had, you had Candy Kisses, who's the Britney Spears parody, but Britney Spears in 2009 parody. So like she's like drunk. She like lip syncs her. This is a segue to talk about the first in-ring segment of the show, when Candy Kisses comes out with the gumdrops that are her backup dancers, and she blatantly lip syncs and then starts like getting drunk and fucking up, and they try to and they have to drag her away.
How does she get drunk in the middle of the ring without a drop of alcohol?
That's a good question. Not moving on. And my favorite name in the entire rap, the 50s girl. She is literally from the 50s. She's got the poodle skirt and everything, and her name is Sha-Na-Na.
Sha-Na-Na.
Sha-Na-Na. I'm pretty sure that's what I'm pretty sure that was a lyric by Linda Hogan in the Hulk Rules album. Oh, excuse me, that was Wanna-Na. Sorry, my bad.
Speaking of Jimmy Hart.
Oh, yeah,
as I commented to Austin, Jimmy Hart has now like been at the heart of two very like horrible things that we've had to cover on this fucking show.
I keep trying to convince David that Jimmy Hart is an all-time great manager, and I feel like I'm showing him the absolute worst things to prove that.
We had like one good Jimmy Hart thing when he was managing Honky Tonk Man. I'm like, okay, this guy seems like an effective heel, and then it's just been downhill from there. My man, actually no, the segment with R-Truth was cute, but that was thanks to R-Truth, not Jimmy Hart. Jimmy Hart was just incidental.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason it had to be Jimmy Hart in that segment was so that R-Truth could make the little Jimmy joke. That was it. That was the whole reason we needed Jimmy Hart there specifically. God damn.
Anyway, back to Wrestlelicious.
Oh, do we have to?
Yes. So we have the sketch comedy. We had the sketch comedy bit where the announcer just rolls up into the women's locker room. I guess I don't know why.
Which is the fakest set there.
I know,
Which makes me question. Do they not have a locker room?
Probably not.
What do they use to get changed? Do they just come that way? Do they have to get naked in the alley out back? What's going on here?
They come to the work in costume, David. Have you ever done that for a show? I have.
You know what? I think I legitimately have before, and that's because it was as low budget as this shit.
But like the skit is that she shows him her newest hit single on her MP3 player. I like to think it's a Zune. That sounds about right for 2009.
2009 low budget.
And he makes some crack about how it's shit, and then she beats him up, and that's the end of the segment.
That's it. That's all we get. Thank you for that.
Then she goes out and sings like shit. And then let's see, from there we get next we get the first spotlight segment, David. The spotlight segment of Autumn Frost, who is a stone cold stunner.
First of all, it's a good thing this show was so terrible and nothing that it didn't get sued like WWE. Yeah, seriously.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the spotlight segments. We get one in each episode, and it's literally just a wrestler in a bikini on a beach when they compile the same 5 clips together of them looking vaguely hot and posing in random orders to get like a 3-minute fucking promo out of it. God, these episodes are padded.
I know, they are so padded. But like
in between the 2 episodes, we get 3 matches.
And one of them is a squash.
One of them is a squash.
Yeah, and you know, the spotlights are exactly like, what do you want me to say about the spotlights? They're in a bikini on a beach doing vaguely sexy poses. All I got is making fun of the fact that they clearly loop the same 3 shots because that's all they got. Oh my god.
Yeah, every single shot in this show is stolen. Nothing. They got permits for exactly 0.
Yeah.
Not even on their own set.
I did make a joke to David that Autumn Frost, whose gimmick is being the ice princess, the first time we ever see her is on the beach in a bikini.
Yeah. Okay, seriously. There is this show is so vapid that I said to Austin when we were watching, this content should have been just the stream of us MST3K style riffing on this show, because that's the deepest analysis we're gonna get. I
told you, David, this is going to be our shortest episode yet. I knew we wouldn't have anything better to talk about.
Okay. I'm going to attempt because the whole premise of Noobs and Knockouts has kind of become that art can be found in the most bizarre of places, because pro wrestling is not something that one would often chalk up to high art, but can really attain those heights sometimes, and thus deserves to be analyzed as such, even in its worst moments. Well, this is its worst moments, my friends. What is there to say about? And I'm not doing a bit here. This isn't like Hulk Rules, where I was doing an obligatory bit because I made a joke about it in an early episode that Austin held me to account on. No, legitimately, what is there to say about Wrestlelicious? I mean, the obvious is just, man, what a beautiful example of just the male gaze taken to its natural extreme.
Except it's not, because the camera doesn't have the male gaze. There is literally zero shots of this that could be construed as male gazy.
Like, I hate to auteur theory this. God, I just used auteur theory to talk about Resolicious.
Oh, this is beautiful.
I hate to auteur theory this, but JV's role in this is like the just most telling thing. Like, we'll talk in other eras about like the influence of the McMahons of the world and the Eric Bischoffs of the world and the whoever the fuck it is that runs AEW.
Tony Khan.
Tony who?
Tony Khan.
Tony Khan, thank you. Or the Tony Khans of the world. We haven't really talked about Tony Khan, but you know, the power players behind the scenes, we will talk about them a lot and kind of their influence and the way their own biases and worldviews shine through. But good old JV here is he's like Tommy Wiseau in a way, in that he has a lot of money and exactly zero aptitude artistically.
You see, I didn't want to be the one to bring in the room, because I feel like that's the kind of thing you can't force.
No,
but I really wanted the room to somehow show up in this.
Well, it's true. Like, because it almost feels to me like Jonathan Vargas here is indulging this fantasy, this puerile fantasy that comes along once in a lifetime to the most extremely lucky person in the world. He won 35 mil on the lotto, and he's like, I'm gonna make an excuse for me to hang out with a bunch of hot women and shoot them suggestively and not have it be a sex crime. And make them all
want to have sex with me.
Yes, exactly. And this is what we get out of it. It's hilarious in how like delusional it is, because he's the man that's standing by with his arms crossed, nodding his head and going, yeah, all right, this is good. Like, seriously, he attempts male gaze. But half the time, the technical specs of this is so inept that he can't even properly communicate the sex to his audience. It's just his own weird fantasy being played out for all of us to sit back and watch in like mouth agape horror at, and not even fully in a Tommy Wiseau way, because as inept as Tommy Wiseau is, he still manages to like get across like the sexual politics that he's trying to communicate, even if it comes across in a much more perverted way than he intended. It gets there. Here, the only sexual politics is woman hot. And half the time we can't even convey that correctly, because Jonathan Vargas is a rando who has no goddamn idea what he's doing.
Yeah, I feel like this is the perfect it is so obvious that he is a complete rando person.
Yeah.
In charge of this. Like, it's self-evident that he does not have any experience at all in making television or wrestling.
Yep.
Because holy shit.
This is a guy who got handed the keys to realize his dream, and as soon as he got put in the driver's seat, was like, wait, shit, I don't know how to do this. It's so clear that this guy like was so in over his head, and because of the cushion of this being lotto money, he got to like beautifully fail and then just return to obscurity without that many evident repercussions.
Nope, he got in and got out, and that's the kind of thing that I would also that's the kind of pun this show would make.
Yeah. Oh God.
No, there's so I could talk a lot. I guess that is the best thing I can do. Transition to talking about the first match of Tony the Top and Maui in a total squash. By the way, Tony gets hits Maui with like 5 moves and wins. Maui doesn't get a single move in.
Which, like, a babyface jobber is an interesting thing. Because we have seen those before. We've seen them in Lucha. And I guess we've seen them in, like, WWF before. I'm sure there are some heels who have done some squash.
I'd argue that jobbers are kind of neutral, if you want to talk about their morality.
That's fair.
They just exist to be beaten up by another human being.
But the characters in Wrestlelicious are such, like, they're not even 2-dimensional. They're just like one-dimensional like cartoon characters that, like, Tony the Top, and her being like this grating mob boss that, like, the plant audience is like aggressively booing.
And I don't understand why she didn't do anything.
I mean, aside from the fact that they were given, like, probably a couple 100,000 told to boo, but, like, she makes God, she makes anyone she goes up against seem like a good guy by comparison. So the fact that Maui just comes out and is, like, happy about, like, being there is like, okay, this is a face by comparison to, I guess, whatever like baby killer is here, to the point where like everybody hates her without a single bit of history behind her.
No, she wins, and the less I say about the announcer's puns, the better. To be fair, he said so many of them, most of them have already completely left my brain.
A direct quote from when Austin and I were watching is, Austin goes, I don't know who this announcer is, but his puns are terrible. And they need to stop, or something to that effect. And I go, I don't know who this announcer is, but shut up, Lawler.
No, they're all so bad. They're all dad jokes, sex jokes, or both.
It could just, this is literally, we have Jerry Lawler at home. This is what this is.
No, it is Jerry Lawler at home. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah. So that's like the only diversion that happens with the horrible work that goes on in ring, and it's a diversion that makes me want to claw out my own ears.
Yeah, so Tony gets the win. She really topped Maui. Do you get it, David? Because her name is Tony the Top.
Get out of here.
Anyway, let's see what else happened on the first episode. It's amazing that I'm having trouble remembering everything that happened on a 30-minute episode, but here I am.
I don't even know, dude.
Oh yeah, they have the skit at Bandita's Cantina, and I was too talking over it, so I didn't catch them. It ends with the rats ate them all. The rats ate all the food, and she goes on with like La Cucaracha, La Cucaracha.
Yeah, didn't that last like all of 30 seconds?
It was a very short bit.
Yeah, we just get like a couple promos, if you can even call them that, of just some of the random wrestlers doing like 30-second puns or whatever.
Oh, was the first episode the one with the glasses bit?
This is the one with the glasses bit that led into the cantina.
You're right. They do the bit where one of the country girls is at the eye doctor's, and she's like, I think I might need glasses. And the eye doctor, who is wearing glasses, this is the joke here, is that he goes, oh, glasses, I don't believe in glasses. She's like, you don't believe in glasses? And he goes, nope, I drink straight from the bottle.
But
that might have been the best joke of all of them.
God. Yeah, I want to convey to you guys, Austin was very excited to hear that pun. He knew the punchline. He's like, shh, I gotta hear this.
Yeah. Brian Zane's Wrestling with Regret video about this had some of these clips. So some of them I already knew where the joke was going.
Oh, Jesus.
And I was very ready for the I drink straight from the bottle.
Yeah. He was legitimately excited, guys. It was kind of scary. I was like, buddy, are you okay? I think we both suffered our own special forms of brain damage from watching this thing.
I think I kind of forced myself to be excited about stuff at some points because it's
Just
like
to-
I need to feel
otherwise
something
it would
here.
just be pain. Yeah.
I need to feel something here.
Oh God.
Main event of the first episode, the 6-woman tag team match between Bandito, Maria Toro, I was very excited about because that's Mercedes Martinez, an absolute legend on the indie women's wrestling scene, currently in WWE NXT today.
Mhm.
She's fantastic, has been a wrestler for almost 20 years, and here she is playing a bullfighter, being the only competent woman in the match. And then you had the felony chick. I don't even remember.
I think her name. I think her name was just Criminal.
No, there was a pun. There was a joke to it. I don't remember what it was. No, there was. I just don't remember.
Ah, Christ.
I could see it have been Felony because that sounds like a female name.
Let's see. I'm looking down the roster right now.
Oh my God, you have the roster pulled up?
It's just on Wikipedia.
That's true.
Felony.
Her name wasn't.
Her name's literally Felony. Yeah. Amazing. Jesus.
It's amazing who among these women has Wikipedia pages.
Wait. On the Wikipedia page, it has the full roster of their ring name and their real name, and cousin Cassie for under real name it just says unknown.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Oh my God.
I do know some of these names. Questions. Jesus. I know some of these women that I didn't know before. You got Jennifer Blake. I've heard of her before as Autumn Frost. We didn't get to see the Bristol girl twins, but I know Holly and Hannah Blossom. They were in TNA. Charlotte the Southern Belle is Amber O'Neal. Leva Bates, I've mentioned her on the show. We'll get back to her.
Okay.
Nevaeh was just on Impact Wrestling, who's Kickstart Katie. Lacey Von Erich, obviously I know her name. Serena Deeb is Paige Webb. Mercedes Martinez is Maria Toro. You know, they got some legitimate women's wrestlers in here.
Okay.
Anyway, back to the match is we get Felony and the two Mexican stereotypes against the ultimate Southern Belle trio of Texas Tyler. It's Texas Tyler, isn't it? Not Tyler, Texas.
I think it's
Tyler, Texas.
Tyler, Texas. Yeah.
He's a country singer. Her cousin Cassie and Charlotte, the Southern Belle.
Yeah. Just
absolutely phenomenal work here.
Yeah. I see, here's the thing. This is going to be me making another attempt at saying something a little more than thing bad. The work here was, for the most part, atrocious. There were some, like, little moments here and there. Austin has been, swearing by Maria Toro, even though, here she's not anything spectacular. Honestly, the one I was most impressed with was Felony.
Felony was who was, see if I know her. See if she's Bonnie Maxon. Let's see if she done. Oh, she was Rain in TNA and Shine and AAA. So she
nice.
Also has a real wrestling career. Now it's all making sense.
Okay, yeah. She was the one I was most impressed with. She actually executed some, like, okay moves and, like, looked somewhat, like, engaging in ring. Like, she had an energy about her that was kind of feral and fun, so I could get down with that. But a lot of times in this show, I'll talk about how when I'm really engaged in a match, when the work is really good, I can feel the impact of the hits that land. Mm-hmm. This was the exact opposite. Almost every hit that landed felt fake to me. The level of, like, not real it was palpable to me. I literally unfelt most of these moves. I was like, that didn't hurt. That also didn't remotely hurt. Wow, that was cheap.
No,
wow,
they look fair. The moves in this look very fake. There's that it was very much in that mold of like, I barely know how to wrestle, so I'm also hitting you very lightly because I don't really know how to do it better.
God, imagine if like the money that JV put into hiring like Jimmy Hart had actually gone into like hiring an actually like competent and somewhat like legitimately good trainer. Because oh my god, these poor women, because like you said, most of these aren't like, some of these have, like, a lot of them have gone on to be wrestlers, but a lot of them started off as just like actresses that got taught to wrestle, and it's very evident that they were just thrown in the deep end without much training.
Yeah, it's just not very good. The wrestling isn't very good here.
It does sort of give me an appreciation for even like the worst we've seen of like AAA stuff, because like you see the way the women in this fight, these fighters execute like clotheslines, and it's like, one of the most basic moves you could see in any like wrestling match. And here it just feels like rote and basic. Like every clothesline feels like baby's first clothesline. Like when you first learn how to do a stunt, and like you're doing it very carefully, very precisely,
Mhm.
because you're like brand new to the physicality and you can't really put any sort of like flair or finesse
Or
into
even
it,
weight behind it.
or even weight behind it. You're just doing like the training wheels version, because that's like the best way you can get it to look good and execute it like technically properly at that
Mhm.
moment. That's what all this looks like. The fighting here was clearly like just underdeveloped. And I don't want to fault any of the fighters for that, because this was clearly not their fault. They were clearly put in a situation where they were set up to fail, because Jonathan Vargas doesn't clearly give a shit about wrestling. He gives a shit about hot ladies on TV. And that's what
Mhm.
we got, and that's all we got.
Yeah. I mean, this is the mid 2010s. You could have done this. I guess probably could have done this show with an actual full roster of actual women's wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
Enough of them exist,
Yeah.
whether even if they're not necessarily big time, because women's wrestling wasn't big time in
Mm-hmm.
2009, 2010. But like, if you wanted to put on a cheesy women's wrestling show with competent women's wrestlers, that could have been done.
Yeah.
Just you could, I mean, like, instead, most of them suck,
Yeah.
and it's
And I
like,
mean, on one hand, it is
because
kind of
most of them
cool.
aren't really trained wrestlers.
And it's kind of nice that quite a few of them then went on to actually pursue better careers in the industry, because
Well, not
yeah.
I don't think a lot of the real wrestlers. I don't think they got their start. I don't think many of them got their start here.
Oh, they didn't.
They just
Okay.
kind of were here because it's like, well, it's a job. It's a paying gig.
Okay, fair enough. Wait. Oh my God. Looking back through the roster again on notes, of course, Glory became the Wrestlelicious champion.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
that's very on brand.
Oh my God.
She was the only champion. That's very sad.
This is literally just like the most obvious shit. Of course, the America lady wins the the Wrestlelicious, championship, because she's the hottest, because Murica. Like, Wrestlelicious, it's not remotely a hot take to say this. It's not even all that insightful to say this, but dear God, this show is an exercise in vapidity.
Want to bet the championship is a crown and not a title belt?
I wouldn't be remotely surprised if it was like a fucking Burger King crown, dude. That's like the level we're at. You win $35 million and put on like the cheapest shit ever. Like, the cheapness of the uber rich will never fail to astound me.
Yeah, so the heels win. By the way, the heels win all three matches
All
on this
three
show.
matches.
And
The heels win
that's what shocked me
by
is that the baby faces never got a win.
again, it's this weird complex this show has about, like, I don't even know, like, evil babes are hot in their own way or something, but the good guys still got to get the moral victory at the end of the day.
I guess we're building up. We got to build up to that catharsis when Glory wins the title, I guess.
God, because America triumphs overall or whatever. I know I'm like reading a lot into this for having only watched like 2 episodes of barely any substance.
I feel like you're reading too much into it, if anything.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying, but it seems like it literally seems like I can just make guesses as to the motivation behind all of these creative decisions, because it doesn't seem like anything that's gone into what's been put to screen here has any thought that's deeper than skin.
I mean, yeah, they're all basic wrestling stare archetypes, porn archetypes, or both.
Yeah. And like, and the worst part is, this makes me like, this doesn't even feel like it was put on by somebody who like knows all that much about wrestling. This feels like somebody who like read like a wrestling 101 like guidebook and only like absorbed about half of it.
Yeah, I would love to have been there while this show was getting made.
Oh, to be a fly on that
I
wall.
want to know how
God.
this was constructed.
One of these days, we got to track down Jonathan Vargas and be like, "Hey, man, what the fuck?"
This is what I would use the time machine for.
Yeah, seriously, this is what I would use $35 million for to put on a one-man hunt to find Jonathan Vargas and ask him what the fuck was going through his mind.
Yeah. So episode 2, let's just kind of roll into it here. They give me an abridged version of the theme, which made me mad because I was gonna write down all the rhymes.
He was really upset, guys.
I was heated. But it opens with, and I can't believe they have a plot that runs through the episode here of Boot Camp Bailey comes out. First of all, props. The military person that comes out to an American-ish theme is the heel here.
Well, see, but the fact that Glory wins the title tells me that it's not because like they're doing any base takes about the military-industrial complex. They just don't like mean ladies who yell at them.
Listen, David, I was trying to give this show credit for something.
I'm not allowing you to. This show deserves absolutely zero credit.
Anyway, she cuts a promo about she needs some new trainees. She does way too long of the I said a 10 hut.
Yeah, she says that she does that like 10 times and the audience keeps booing, and she never just like moves on. No, she just has to keep hammering it in till the plant audience dies down.
I blame the plant direction here.
Well, that too.
Like it's playing off a classic heel trope of like heel comes out to talk. The crowd boos the shit out of him, so he can't get his word. No, he can't. No one can hear him, and then he yells into the mic like, "Hey, shut up!" And then they keep booing, and that usually goes a couple of turns before like the crowd calms down or the heel moves on, or alternatively the heel moves on and the crowd calms down because they do actually want to hear what he has to say.
Yeah.
And so Vicky Guerrero makes great use of this to use someone that David knows.
Yeah, I mean, I literally referenced Vicky Guerrero while we were watching this because like the attention had her yelling attention had the exact same cadence as Vicky Guerrero yelling "excuse me."
Yeah, but eventually Vicky only does it a couple of times before she just yells over them, and then they shut up.
Hey,
so they hear Vicky,
shut up. Yeah, and it's great.
Poor Boot Camp Bailey here, which by the way, I think the funniest line in the rap intro is when she goes, I'm Boot Camp Bailey, a big guns Marine, and she like vaguely flexes her arms and like she's a toothpick.
Yeah, I know.
I get there's a double wording here with guns, but also I think it's very funny that you're like, I got big guns. Like, do you?
Yeah, do you now? I mean, most of the women on the show are pretty toothpicky, but like, no shame. It's just funny.
Yeah. I mean, none of the others are trying to hype up how big their guns are, David.
True. That's fair.
So, anyway, she comes out and she's trying to find some new recruits, and she just randomly pulls people from the audience.
They literally do a thing that I was like kind of joking about. I'm like, oh, please cut to the audience and have plants that volunteer, and they actually did that.
No, it's great. I knew one of the women, Leva Bates,
Mhm.
who is a kind of a mainstay of women's indie wrestling as as the cosplay queen.
Mhm.
And then she is an appeared in WWE NXT. She'll even be in our next storyline arc with that in a few couple of
Yeah,
places.
exciting
And she
stuff.
currently works for AEW.
Oh, hey, nice.
Nice. So yeah, she also steals the floor production manager, and for some reason she goes along with it. I don't know why,
Yeah, I don't know who she's gonna like turn into.
but yeah, they like go out, and she's gonna, and then they call back to this later in the episode, amazingly, with the greatest pun you've ever seen, David.
Mhm.
The Young and the Wrestlers.
Yeah, I don't know why they went there, but sure.
And they basically, the three women, they go to this nice house. I was pushing my not a porno button because
Yeah,
it felt like the start of a porno.
it
They even
literally it
do
was
a
like
thing where they go to they find the jacuzzi hot tub in the backyard, and Leva starts pulling her shirt off
yep.
until she gets talked down so they can go get some drinks at
I know.
the island and outside. And like they do the thing where like one of the women was standing in front of Leva to cover the fact that she was supposed to be topless.
I know. What the heck?
But
And
then
and on top of that, like when they first get in the house, they all like flop on a bed together.
I know that, yeah, they all flop on the bed together, and it's like, oh, okay, this is
What
definitely, there's a porno here.
Yeah, again, just the weird fake sapphic tension that permeates this entire thing. Of course, had to have been intentional. Of course, it was
Yeah,
intentional.
I was intentional.
This is one of the place where Jonathan Vargas's horrible male gaze actually succeeds, and it's the most cringy shit.
Dude was directing this episode with one hand.
Yeah, so he conceived this entire show with one hand.
Let's see. Other stuff that happened on episode 2. We got the spotlight segment was with Lacey Von Erich,
More bikini.
who weirdly in this show doesn't really have, like, everyone else has these stupid gimmicks, and she's just like, I'm a Von Erich, you know who that is. It's like, I'm impressed.
Thank you. Yeah, I suppose I'm supposed to be impressed by that.
But of course, it's the exact same crap as Autumn Frost.
Yeah, it's again bikini shot and the same 5 cuts put together in random order over and over for 3 minutes.
We talked about the Tony the Top segment where JV Rich
Yeah.
denies her. Oh, we had are you smarter than a male wrestler?
Oh my god. Yeah, what was that?
Are you smarter than a fifth grader parodies?
This is another weird thing of like, this feels like this is trying to be like throwing a bone to the respect woman crowd, but it still manages to come off incredibly condescending to the woman because it's the most obvious, like, men are dum-dums, duh. Like, what?
To be fair, they got the best man is dumb possible for this segment. Nasty boy Brian Knobs. Alyssa, the Nasty Boys are classic wrestlers of the early to mid 90s, and I hate them. They're stupid. Their gimmick is that they dress like Bebop and Rocksteady, and all their shtick is, we're the Nasty Boys because we're nasty. One of their big moves is to stick their opponents in their smelly armpits.
This had to have been Jimmy Hart calling in a favor, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It is part of the Hulk Hogan Friends Network. Jimmy Hart, Ed Leslie, Brutus Beefcake, the Nasty Boys, Randy Savage occasionally.
Wait,
it's all connected.
Sidebar. God, it's just partially to escape, partially out of actual curiosity. Savage and Hogan were like buddies IRL.
Off and on.
Okay, wholesome enough.
Very off and on.
Oh, well, off and on wholesome then.
Like I would point to you that Savage wrote a rap diss track about Hogan.
But I thought that was kayfabe.
No, it wasn't.
Oh no.
Anyway, back to this.
Oh god damn it.
Brian Knobbs. He's the Jimmy Hart asks what happened in 1776.
And he's up against Glory because of course she is.
Again, yeah, she's facing Glory, the All-American girl. And by the way, 1776, a lot of things happened.
Yes, it's a whole year. It's a very loaded question there.
But, Brian Knobbs is like, I think I know. It's the first ever beer drinking competition. It's like, fuck off. And then she's like, I love America. So I know that the answer, that's when the Declaration of Independence was signed.
Yeah, which again, just the priorities of this show. It's so single-minded, incredible. I will say the steadfast dedication to every week putting that same like dumb 3 messages on TV is impressive in its own right. They're
very committed to the shtick, David.
Yeah, yeah. Can you even call it a shtick when there is no way that none of this wasn't done in earnest?
Okay, the second episode got padded the fuck out by replays. They do like a recap of the main event of the first episode, and then they do a recap of the Boot Camp Bailey thing.
Yeah, I know. Like, just okay, 2 episodes in, we're already implicitly admitting that we're running low on like content. Good to know. Thank you.
For a half-hour show.
Yeah, half hour, if that, because like commercial breaks are a thing.
No, it took us 45 minutes to watch 2 episodes, and they're already running out of stuff to do.
Yeah, which, here's an idea. It's a wrestling show. Put some wrestling in it!
I guess that's a good transition to go wrap up the shticky crap from this episode. Is the country girls showed up for I'm using their words, David, a country quickie between Texas Tyler and Cousin Cassie.
Again, it's like I'm just sounding like a goddamn broken record on this show right now, but it's so obvious what they were going for. It's incredible how blatantly JV was just like, I want to put the closest thing as I can to porn on network TV.
No, on syndicated TV.
On syndicated. Either way.
Didn't even make it to network. Syndicated
TV. Woof.
And yeah, their shtick is basically being like, man, these down home, this promotion sure ain't like those down home promotions, like those wrestling promotions down home, and these wrestlers sure ain't like those down home wrestlers.
Seriously.
Oh Lord, it was so bad. And then our main event, Paige Webb, the Web Mistress, versus Autumn Frost, the Ice Princess. Before that, we get Paige Webb reading an email that says, you have pierced my heart. You've also pierced something else, and it's an unsolicited dick pic. Hilarious.
At the very least, I can't believe I'm giving this show any sort of credit. At the very least, she wasn't into it. But again, but even then, I can't give that credit because it's very clear that from the get-go, they're giving Paige Webb this weird version of the virgin whore complex / the you'd be prettier if you took your glasses off.
Well, as I told David, they run through that whole arc in 5 seconds. When she gets to the match, she's getting the full get-up. She's wearing like this oversized jacket. She's got her hair done up. She's got the glasses on. And then when she gets in the ring, she slowly takes the glasses off to have her show the jacket off, for her wrestling gear. And she takes the glasses off and she slowly puts her hair down. She ran through the whole arc.
Yeah, I mean, again, man, if only we could think of ways to fill out this half-hour show with content. Ah, well.
And so, yeah, Paige Webb and Autumn Frost, they have a match. It's probably the most watchable match we had.
Yeah, it actually wasn't that bad. I was saying like, it was not a good match by any stretch, but it was a watchable match, and both of the wrestlers in it were actually competent.
Yay! I guess the only thing I want to mention is that the announcer fucked up the pun.
Yeah.
When she's getting beat up, when Paige Webb is getting beat up, he goes, the computer cutie is running out of gas, running out of gas or something. Like it was clearly a car joke. Like it fits better with a car. I forget the exact wording.
Yep. It's running low on fuel or something.
Mm-hmm.
And literally I was like, that's a car, you dipshit. So boomer ass announcer who doesn't know a car from a computer, good to know. Which in some ways makes him even more of a perfect, like, at home Jerry Lawler. Yeah. The match was watchable. They executed some good moves. I can see how which actual wrestler is that?
Serena Deeb is
Paige Webb. I can see why Serena Deeb goes on to have like a career, because she actually like put in some good work, and she was like the least bad actress on this show that I think we saw too.
She did it. She was doing monkey flips out there, and I was like, "Oh my god, real cool moves."
She was doing monkey flips. Autumn Winter. What's her name?
Autumn Frost.
Autumn Frost. Dear God. Autumn Frost actually had some like decent looking submission holds that I was actually impressed by. Like the bar was set so low here that even like basic in-ring competency I was like clapping like a seal for, like, yeah, this is how you do it. Good job.
Oh, that reminds me of the best subtle pun in this entire show. Mm-hmm. It's from the first episode. Felony did a straight jacket hold.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and also I will give the credence to the one thing that I found actually kind of funny when they did the 3-on-3 tag team match, and the heels came out. Each of the heels, like below their name, had a place of origin, but all of them were like jokes. And Felonies was like work release, and I was like, okay, that's kind of funny.
Yeah, work release. Maria Tora was the bullfighter, and Bandita is Tijuana's finest.
Yeah. I was like, so kudos. I internally chuckled at Felony being on work release.
Felony having like the parole officer there all the time is probably the best joke.
It's so stupid and cartoony, but like at least it's leaning into how stupid and cartoony it is. I mean, this whole show was leaning into its stupid cartoonishness, but that one was like, it's like somewhat charming, probably because Felony actually has some charisma to her, because her gimmick is able to shine through the bullshit that every single woman on this show like was directed to do by their weirdly pervy and hugely inept boss.
Yeah, and I think that's a good play. That's a good way to wrap up a bow on that one. This was a troll job on my part.
Yeah,
I knew it was about what I expected it to be.
I mean, I did have a good time riffing on it with Austin, but dear God, if I had to watch this seriously, I would just give up on wrestling as a whole, because like you can't unsee this. And I mean, going into the legitimately good NXT stuff that we're going to start covering next week, I mean, this is just the textbook don't do this example for how to do lady wrestling, because, you know, gender politics are difficult, and who are we as two dudes to really put in meaningful discourse to feminist academia? But the very basic thing to say that I feel comfortable saying is gender politics is it's difficult. It is a tricky line to walk sometimes, because gender parity is the goal, but you can't achieve that by doing things the exact same way you do for men as you do for women. Just the way our society has evolved, there needs to be like some acknowledgement of the womanness in order for it to work. Otherwise, it just feels weird and like it exists in a vacuum that doesn't like work inside the political realities that we've known for our entire history. And so you need to like play into a little bit that this is lady wrestling, but you need to do but this right here, Wrestlelicious, is the textbook way of how you don't do that, because this is nothing but sexualization and condescension and not taking any one of the wrestlers on that stage remotely seriously. And I think that is the ultimate crime of this show, is not a single one of those women up there was taken even slightly seriously by the show that they are there to perform for. They're all jokes. They're all sexy walking jokes for Jonathan Vargas to use in his lotto winning fantasy. And that's it. So you need to not do this. You acknowledge that this is lady wrestling and that there are going to be some slight differences to it, but you take them seriously. And that's the crime of that's the crime of this. That's the crime of the Divas era. That's the crime of how people like Miss Elizabeth were treated back in their day. And this was almost a very like an opposite chaser of like this was the shot before the chaser of like, God, this burns going down. And then next week we start to see, when it's done right, oh my God, how good it can be.
Yeah, so what you're saying is the gender politics thing. We should have brought Elizabeth or Claire back into this for this episode.
God, I feel like either of them would have just had an aneurysm halfway through, and we would have had to like answer for their deaths on air.
Yeah, that's what I did. I felt they didn't deserve this.
It would be like exploitative to bring them on here, because it would have just them being appalled for like an hour and a half. And we would have just had to sit here like tugging at our collars like, yeah, it's bad, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why I didn't want them on this one.
Yeah, that's completely fair.
But yeah, to actually talk to your point there, is that I agree that this is just like, it's so awful. Mm-hmm. And it is much more, I will say it is a lot more of like a fetishization lens than I thought it was going to be. Mm-hmm. Like I thought going in it was going to be a little bit of that. Like I expected some of it. I did not expect it to be literally the whole show.
Yeah.
And yeah, like none of the women on this show are being taken seriously here. And it's just really bad.
It's cringy, and it feels secondhand embarrassing, because like I'm going back and forth here, because like I never want to like do the thing where like you make women the constant victim and like imply they have no agency. But I feel like here it's fair to say, like, all of the badness that came from their performances, like some of it came from like a lack of talent or an underdeveloped talent, but 90% of it came from just horrible direction. Mm-hmm. And it's obvious as to why, because, you know, we're not here to actually pay homage to women's wrestling. We're here to bash some sexy lamps together in a wrestling ring.
And the lamps aren't even that sexy because they're so tacky.
Because they're so tacky, and they're shot in the least appealing way you possibly could.
Yeah. So that's that. I think that's about the best way we can describe Wrestlelicious. Lamps attempting to be sexy, attempting to get smashed into each other, but then you didn't even make the lamps sexy. So next week, we continue our journey of only talking about women's wrestling for a sec, where we next hit the beginning of the NXT Women's Revolution, or more specifically, the tale of the four horsewomen of NXT. But
are there actually four this time? Are there actually four this time?
There are four.
Yes.
This isn't the three horsemen situation. There are four of them. And so, and the funny thing is, and we're going to actually shake up our format a little bit here, David.
Oh,
because normally, 31 episodes now, we've been very much like we watch one show all the way through and we talk about it. But the thing is, and I'll explain more about this next week, is that I felt that the story would be better suited if we could follow it all the way through, instead of me having to explain to David what happened. What if David got to see it all himself?
Ooh.
So for at least the beginning of this NXT women's storyline, I'm always open to us changing back if me and David don't like it once we're doing it. But for next week, we are going to be following the 3-month arc, the first 3 months of Charlotte Flair as NXT Women's Champion.
That's exciting.
So, David, hit our plugs, please.
Alrighty, my friends, my wonderful friends, we here at the Noobs and Knockouts Podcast would like to formally apologize for making you suffer through this indignity with us, and would like to thank you all the more for being here with us for another episode. If this is a returner listener who is listening to us right now, thank you so much for once again allowing us back into your eardrums. We hope it was a pleasant enough experience. Yeah, we promise it's not going to be like this anymore, at least not for a while. If you are a first-time listener, well, welcome.
Again, please come back.
Again, please come back. We promise it's rarely like this again. If you would, through the grace of God, like to continue to join us from here on out, I will tell you exactly how to do so. One, you can find us on YouTube, the Noobs and Knockouts Podcast. Hit subscribe, ring that bell, all that good stuff, so you get notified of when we drop new episodes, and leave those comments and likes and add us to your playlist. We also, on our YouTube channel, have all of our playlists organized into the different arcs that we follow. So if you want to follow a specific arc, or you want to keep particularly organized in your listening, you can check us out through that. You can also find us on 3 of the best places to find podcasts, and that would be Spotify, Apple, and Google. We are the Noobs and Knockouts Podcast. Follow us, rate us, whatever it is that you do on those platforms to make sure you're keeping up with us and telling the algorithm that, yes, more of this, please. Helps us out, helps you out because it gets you a good show. I see this as an absolute win. You can also find us on our social media. We are on Twitter at Noobs and Knox Pod. That's Noobs, the letter N, Knox Pod on Twitter. We tweet out a bunch of stuff. We join the broader wrestling fandom at large to discuss things, to make memes, what have you, and the delightful Austin live tweets pro wrestling as he sees fit. My friend, what is on the schedule coming up?
Yes, so on the day this episode will drop will be WWE Hell in a Cell.
Ooh, big one.
Or it's TVPG, so it's Heck in a Sec. What do we have on the docket there? We have Alexa Bliss versus Shayna Baszler. Kill me. Because ugh, while we're talking about dignified women's wrestling, let's talk about Alexa Bliss and her creepy doll.
Oh yeah, I've been hearing about that.
It's not fun.
Oh no.
Shayna Baszler is a former MMA stud and a former NXT Women's Champion.
Nice.
And she's scared of the doll.
That's silly.
It has spooky magic powers, David. What do you want me to say?
That's silly.
Anyway, then in a Hell in a Cell match, or a Heck in a Sec if you prefer, for the Universal Championship, we're going to have Roman Reigns, the tribal chief. Acknowledge him. Acknowledge him as the head of the table. Versus Rey Mysterio. Gonna be a good one. I'm sure Roman Reigns will continue to gaslight his cousins. He is legitimately might be the best heel on wrestling TV right now. He's having a great time.
Mm-hmm.
Next, the SmackDown at Women's Championship. Bianca Belair. She is the EST of WWE. She's really great. She's like just a super athlete stud who can kick a lot of ass. Versus Bayley, the Karenest of Karens. I love her. She's part of our storyline next week. Then for the Raw Women's Championship, Rhea Ripley. She's like a heavy metal badass against Charlotte Flair. Amazing how this ties in. It feels weird that we're covering a storyline recent enough for that kind of stuff to matter, for this to, tie itself in later.
Yeah.
And then in a Hell in a Cell match for the WWE Championship, last chance match. If the challenger loses, he's done. He can't challenge no mores. Bobby Lashley, the almighty WWE Champion, versus Drew McIntyre, who is really Scottish, but he kicks a lot of ass. So that's going to be a big old hoss fight. It's going to be fun, I'm sure. Beautiful. That is the match so far. There is still, as of this recording, week's Friday Night SmackDown hasn't aired. They could always add more from the card.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, every week, we are watching AEW Dynamite. As of this, we're in this period where the NBA playoffs are preempting them to Fridays at 10 p.m. Eastern. It's great. But this week, from the day this airs, they're actually airing on Saturday, June 26th at 8 p.m. All we know right now is that we're going to have an AEW championship match between Kenny Omega and Jungle Boy. It's going to be awesome.
Nice. All right. So be sure to check all of that out. Austin is very diligent about his live tweeting. He puts out some really good analysis, some really funny memes. It's all quality content. Please, by all means, feel free to check it out. You can also email us at our Gmail, noobs and knockouts pod at gmail.com. That's noobs, the word, and this time knockoutspod at gmail.com. Email us suggestions, email us requests, positive feedback, negative feedback, whatever you want. If you just want to say hi, tell us how beautiful and wonderful our voices are and how you use them to fall asleep every single night. We love to hear that. Whatever you want to do, just say hi. We love saying hi to people. We love getting to say hi back. Just anything to hear from people, we are more than happy to. So shoot us an email at your liking. And finally, you can subscribe to us on Patreon. $1 a month gets you early access to episodes and a shout out at the end of each episode.
And one last time for them before it closes out. Invasion, episode 26, Invasion from Planet WrestleTopia. Very fun episode. We've gotten a lot of people. We got a lot of views on that episode. So I know y'all know what I'm talking about here.
Yes.
They're having a Kickstarter campaign to get a real physical release, and it is going till June 24th, near the end of it. We're coming up to the home stretch here. So please back that campaign if you can.
Yes.
It is a really good book, and I would love to see it in physical print.
Same, please, by all means.
Yeah, just look them up on Kickstarter, Invasion from Planet WrestleTopia, Suspicious Behavior Productions.
It's great stuff.
All right, and see you guys next time.
Hasta luego.